You're gonna be fine.
So, hi.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm Tiara, your therapist. So what brings you in today?
I've just been having a lot of, I'm not motivated to do anything. I recently moved from Boston, back in with my parents in Philly. I'm an art therapist, and I moved because my mom was sick and there's some stuff going on. But I was lucky enough to be able to kind of transfer my job here. So I work with kids who are trauma survivors and do a lot of art therapy, body movement, and it's been a passion of mine, but I feel like I'm just at a point where I'm stuck. Like, I pretty much don't want to do it anymore.
You don't want to do art therapy, or you don't want to take care of mom?
I don't want to do. I don't want to say I don't want to take care of my mom, because then that's just, I'm a terrible person. But I have no desire to do my groups anymore. I have no desire to, I used to be the type of person to give presentations and go to lectures, and kind of do these things, make my presence known, and now I just don't. I don't anymore. My life right now feels like, it's taking care of the business that my dad has. He runs an auto shop around the corner, so I run the books for him and take care of my mom, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get let go from my job.
So how long have you been here? Like you said, you moved. So how
Yeah.
long have you been here?
So I've been here for maybe about 4 or 6 months. Not too long, but
Yeah.
long enough to get my footing.
And were your parents already here?
They were.
Okay. So when you moved, it was only because mom was sick.
My mom had a stroke.
Okay.
And my dad kind of let on that things would be fine, and he was working out, things were going okay, but he's got really bad arthritis, and he's got COPD himself. So I kind of started to notice when I was talking to him and kind of checking in with them that things maybe weren't as great, and he wasn't letting me know that. And I've got 2 siblings, but for some reason the youngest is always the one to come back home. Granted, I know my sister, she has 2 kids of her own, but my brother can't even pick up the phone and call. So it's me.
Are you the oldest?
No, I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. So that's a lot for you, being the youngest, and you're not only taking care of mom, but also dad.
Right.
And it sounds like it's affecting what seems like your passion.
Yeah.
And doing art therapy and stuff.
Yeah. It's really, I feel like it's just stifling everything. I used to be this type of person who would go out and be with friends, be in the community. I would see, my colleagues. I would see friends from school. And I would, go to parties and be social and be out there. And now I'm just at home, making sure, my mom's got what she needs. She's taking her medication on time. And it's easier, because if I don't do that, then I feel like I'm amped up all the time.
Okay. So what kind of told you that maybe I should seek further help?
I just felt like, being this type of person who's always been out there and connected to what I do, I want to get inspired to get back to that again. I hate the feeling of, not being able to run my groups and not being able to see my kids, because I had this feeling in my gut that says, no, you can't do this, or no, you're going to screw up when you give this presentation, or,
Were these feelings present before you moved here?
I've been trying to think about that, actually. I think they were, I think they've always been there because I've always been the type of person to, take my studies and take my career very seriously. But I think they've definitely been heightened since I've moved back, and I don't know why.
So it sounds like you're in a position now where you want to kind of take back your life and be more in control of what's happening because you want to be successful. And I commend you for doing that and actually coming to therapy, because a lot of people don't seek treatment for issues that you're describing here. So, like, what specifically is it about you doing a presentation? You said you have like this feeling that you're going to mess up. Can you describe that more? Like, are you afraid of other people's opinion? Could you say more?
Yeah, so I think I am afraid of other people's opinion. I've been told, that my techniques are good and, the skills that I have are good, and that's part of the reason that we're asked to do the presentations that we are, but I always just worry that, like, and I don't know if this goes back to when I was a kid, who knows, but, you always worry about getting up in front of a group of people and messing it up or saying the wrong thing or not paying homage to the right stuff. And the other thing is, too, like, not only am I in this for the art therapy, but I'm also in it for the art. I'm very, very passionate about the pieces that I've been able to create and the literature that I've been able to add. And so I've had the opportunity to go to galleries and have exhibits posted, in relation to what I've been doing. And sometimes you get this feeling of like, oh shit, are people going to like what I do or what I have to say?
So you become like a little anxious surrounding something that you really love to do. So it sounds like.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start by saying that what you're experiencing is like very normal.
Okay.
But there is like a continuum of what would be considered like normal anxiety and then like problematic anxiety, and then people kind of like fall in between those two extremes. So normal anxiety is, being nervous about an interview or giving a speech or something like that. A problematic anxiety sounds like what you're describing, where now it's going to like hinder your success of being an art therapist. So I feel as though through the work here that we can do is kind of bring down that level of anxiety that you might be experiencing surrounding giving presentations and being part of groups and doing stuff like that. So let's kind of like talk about maybe like the types of social situation that may elicit some of these feelings. So have you been in other situations outside of work that might kind of contribute to your anxiety?
Yeah, I feel like it's all of them. I feel like, I've become, this is probably terrible, but I feel like I've become this hermit of like, I don't do anything anymore, because even my friends, they'll ask me to go and do stuff. My one friend just had a baby and asked us not only, a couple of us, not only to come and see the baby, but also to like maybe go and grab dinner with her or something like that. And I'm in this mindset of like, yes, okay, sounds good. And then the closer and closer it gets, the more I want to throw up and the more I just feel like I'm not doing this. So I make up some excuse where it's like, oh, sorry, I've got to take care of my mom, or oh, sorry, I've got to run this errand for my dad. And, people are only going to take that for so long.
And it seems like the more that we try to avoid a situation, the more the anxiety kind of builds. But research shows that if you're able to manage your thoughts and your emotions enough, that the longer you stay in that situation, the less the anxiety will come down and you'll be able to engage in whatever it is that you're trying to engage in. But in order for us to get to that point, you would have to put in the work. So over the course of treatment, you would have to do like homework assignments where you kind of like analyze, what's going on for you when you're having these thoughts and these feelings in the situations. So you'll be doing like some tracking of like behaviors, like what do you notice physically is happening in certain situations. We'll also do like some cognitive reconstructing because you have some thoughts that kind of come up when you're in these situations in terms of, you're going to mess up or people are going to think that you didn't do a good job. And all of those things kind of hinder your ability to engage the way that you want to. And then probably the last piece of it, or one of the last pieces, would be to get you to really get out there and kind of expose yourself to these situations so that you can kind of almost become numb to it, where it's not even an issue. But if we could kind of talk about anxiety in itself, it's a good thing. It's a human condition that we all have, and it's natural. So I just want you to know that how you're feeling is not abnormal at all. We all have anxiety, and it comes with these protective factors. Like when you perceive a situation to be threatening or harmful to you, then automatically your body is like, do I fight or do I flight? And for you, it sounds like your response is to flight, or to flee. So that's when you come up with your excuses. Oh, I have to help mom, or I have to help dad. So we would just have to really kind of dig in there and kind of deconstruct these thoughts and these feelings that you're having that's associated with being anxious, so that you don't have to flee all the time. But also with social anxiety, because you are worried about other people and what they're thinking, you kind of look at it in a positive way in terms of if you're concerned about somebody else, that's a way for us to like treat each other more kindly, or to kind of like put somebody else's perspective into like your own thoughts, so that you're like more careful. So it does come with like some positive, like we care about what other people think. But just because it is affecting you negatively, it is something that we definitely should work on. And guess I'm gonna switch gears.
Okay.
Okay, so I had you do this social phobia inventory where you kind of talk about your anxiety, and this was a homework assignment that I assigned you. So you scored pretty high on here. So it looks like you're severely anxious. So one of the things that really stuck out for me is that you're afraid of doing things when people might be watching. Being embarrassed or looking stupid is one of your worst fears. Feeling of embarrassment causes me to avoid doing things or speaking to people. And being criticized scares me a lot. So how did you feel filling this out?
It felt really heavy, and I honestly, I don't know. It's one thing to do it and one thing to fill it out. It's another thing for another person to look at it and say like, oh yeah, great, you're really high on this. So I just kind of sat there and was like, yep, okay, all this stuff really sucks. And I noticed, that it is more about the social, like, being around other people or feeling like other people are going to be part of this with me. Like, it's one thing for me to know that I'm going to be around my parents or my siblings. It's another thing for me to have to be around my friends or my coworkers or my group of kids who I've seen, and who are kids. Like, I'm 28 and they're 6. Like, I shouldn't be worried about that, but I'm crippled by that sometimes. And so it was, doing that was like a blessing and a curse because it put it out on paper.
Right.
But it's also horrifying to me to know that, like, this is how messed up I am.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way to look at it. But now you're definitely more aware, and with awareness comes, this is something that you know, so now you can change it. So you have the ability, you have the power to change some of these things as long as you work hard at it.
Mm-hmm.
So like another assignment that I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you track situations that give you anxiety, and then kind of talk about your thoughts during that situation, some of the emotions you may have experienced, and physical symptoms and behaviors. So it's really just like a self-monitoring thing, so that you could kind of work your way up to being more exposed to those situations, so that we can kind of decrease your level. So like the goal would be, like how you filled this out already, your score is like very severe, to bring this down to where it's like moderate or mild, or even none, if that was a goal of yours. Do you have any fears or goals regarding this treatment process?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring it up, because as you're talking about the fact that, like, yeah, I'll have this experience where I've got to track what the anxiety feels like, and I've got to track where it is in my body and the thoughts that I'm having, and kind of, I know you mentioned the last time, like, this eventual process of exposure and kind of sitting in it. It sounds like that's a lot of what this is going to be, and I think, part of going to school, we learn that we have to sit with different emotions and recognize where they are, but I'm worried about being able to stay in that and being able to kind of not fly off the handle in doing it, I guess. So yeah, and like just kind of keeping in mind the fact that, like, my score was so high, like, I don't know if I'm gonna get to none. Like, in the perfect world, I would like to, and I
mean, but you're here, so you're
yeah.
already coming down this continuum.
Yeah.
You're already doing the work. So as long as you can stick with it and really, put yourself in the work, then I have the belief that you'll definitely be able to change what it is that you're struggling with. So I just hope that you can, stick it out and have this hope in yourself that you'll be able to do it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I believe in you. So
Thanks.
we're going to have to work on you believing that as well.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to, and I don't know, maybe this is something we talked about before, but I think I'm gonna have to work on, like, when I'm going through these situations or when I'm sitting in it, like, when to know enough is enough, or when to know, I can stop this process of monitoring myself. Always kind of keeping it in the back of my mind, but never really going overboard with it, I think that's part of what makes me anxious too. But you said it the last time, and it's been something I've been thinking about, this idea that I know that my circumstances are different than what they were, but I just want to get to a point where I can take my life back.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted trying to constantly think of the next step, or continually thinking of what other people's perception of me is going to be. So
yeah, and we could definitely work on some techniques, some breathing exercises, and you know, just like when you're in the moment, just kind of stopping and just like noticing, like, okay, I'm having this response. My heart is beating fast, or I'm starting to sweat. My hands are really sweaty, or, you know, I'm breathing really hard. And just kind of like slowing it down and just kind of remembering, like, this is only temporary. This isn't going to last. And that you'll get through it, you know, however long the presentation is, or the group is not forever. So just remembering that, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to have to stay in this state. So
Yeah.
it's one of the techniques you can use.
Yeah. I think that's a good reminder to have. And I didn't really think about that. You know, when you're in the moment or when you're in it, it feels like it's like forever. But I think, yeah, that reminder of like, okay, this is just for the next couple minutes, or, you know, just for the next little while.
You just gotta push through it.
And I didn't know, and maybe this is something I should have known, but I didn't know that you could just be like, okay, I'm aware that, you know, my heart is really beating, or my hands are really sweaty, or I'm feeling really cold, you know, because those are all things I've talked about, how those are things that I feel. So I didn't know that I could just kind of sit with that and acknowledge what that is and have it be enough, I guess.
And then also changing your thought pattern, like those automatic thoughts of, oh, they think that I'm stupid, or something like that, and being able to reframe it and, you know, not be so much in your head about what's going on the outside. You'll get through it. I don't know how long it was.
I'm not sure. Does it say on there?
21 minutes.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop.
Okay.
I feel like I'll be able to